What's up, guys? Welcome back to Dream a Little, the podcast that's all about helping you feel confident about your ABDL side. I'm your host, Lo. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I know I feel like I say this all the time, but this has got to be one of my favorite episodes I've ever recorded. Our guest, Tristian, was so down to earth and positive that it was just contagious. As you can already guess from the title of this episode, Tristian has been through something that most people would consider traumatic. Yet he was able to turn this negative experience around and see all the great things that came from it. So I think you're going to really love this episode. If you enjoy hearing from Tristian and you want to reach out to him, you can find links to his social media accounts at thelittlelounge.com/177. That's thelittlelounge.com/177. And that's where you'll also find a video of my latest Nurturing Mommy roleplay. I'm super passionate about creating roleplay audios that help you get into a little space and feel like you're right there in the room with me. All right, I won't make you wait any longer. Let's get started. Hi, Tristian. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, Lo? How are you?
Really good. Really excited to talk to you. And I'm such a big fan of yours on Instagram. You post the cutest content.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Vice versa. I'm a huge fan of yours, as you know, so.
Yeah, I know. You were telling me you listen to the show, so it's really cool to have you on here.
Every episode, trust me, every episode when I'm working out, when I'm cleaning, if I'm taking a shower, sometimes even when I'm at work in my office, I listen.
I love hearing that. So I know on your Instagram, you really show a lot of your little side. So I'm just wondering, are you strictly a little or are you also a switch?
I'm predominantly a switch. So when I first started out, I was more of a daddy. And then I met, I guess you could say, my daddy or / boyfriend. And he is what turned me into a little. And once I discovered that little side, it's addicting. It's something it's hard to shy away from. And when we first got together, it was predominantly just me being his daddy. And then once again, he was like, hey, let's, go get a drink or something. We went and got a drink. And then from that point on, he's like, I want you to be little. Just one night, be little for me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try. And then from that point on, it's just, I've been his little boy ever since.
Wait, so yeah, you kind of completely switched?
Yes. And it wasn't me. It's mainly him who was like, you're so adorable. And, everything just works better with me being your daddy. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do it. I'm down. So
okay.
Yes, I guess you could say I'm a switch, but I'm more of a 60-40 switch with 60% going towards my little side, the other 40 going towards my daddy's side.
I love that. That's really cool that you were, well, it seemed like maybe you were a little bit hesitant at first. Had you ever worn a diaper or anything on your own?
Every single day. So ever since I've been in diapers, even my mom will tell me, you were the hardest, kid to potty train because every time, I put you in underwear, I would come in and you snuck in a diaper, you're sleeping in a diaper. And I'm like, oh, that's just, now it makes sense as to why, I like diapers so much. So yeah, I've always been into them. As for my little side, it was always kind of like, I've always done it by myself. So because did it by myself, I always told myself, I don't think I could ever be little in front of anybody. So I was more comfortable being the whole dom daddy role. Because even when I was in a vanilla relationship, I was more of a dom in, the bedroom. So I always kind of, could relate more to the daddy side. But once I discovered that little side, oh my God, it went off from there.
That's amazing. So, I mean, I get it because when you're first in a relationship, it's hard to be vulnerable like that. I mean, I guess that's the best word I could think of it for when you're in little space is, just putting yourself out there and risking, you never know how it's going to be received and how other people are going to see you. And it seems like in order for you to get there, you had to be with someone that you really trusted and who encouraged that side out of you. And was he a natural being a daddy at first?
So when I first met my boyfriend, he was predominantly little and he was just same like me. I'm like, I will never be little. I will always be a daddy. And he just was like, I will never be a daddy. I will always be a little. So we were perfect for each other, And then he started seeing signs that, I guess he said, what he told me is what I saw some of your little side. Every here and there, your little side would peek out. And I can just tell you wanted to really be little just for one time only. And he gave me that one night. And literally since that one night, I think he's been little for me twice, and this all started in March. So since March, I've been his little boy, and he has not been little
Oh my
whatsoever.
gosh. And he's totally
Yeah,
fine with that?
he's fine with it. And even when I try to give him, some daddy time or give him his little space time, he kind of pushes away. And then, so for an example, I'll just say, "Come here, little boy, let's get you changed." "No, you're the little boy," he'll say. "I think you need to be changed." And then right away, I'm little and I don't even fight back anymore. I used to, but now it's just, I don't even have the energy to.
So now that you're kind of more in the position of a little most of the time, do you ever miss playing that, caregiver role?
Every single day.
You
And actually,
do.
every day. I actually was just on the phone with him this morning, and I just was like, "Hey, do you think I can get some daddy time?" And he's like, "Oh, don't worry. I'll get it. We'll get there. And right now, I just really enjoy you being little." And so he's been in the community probably since he was 16, 17. I'm still new to this community. Even though I've always worn diapers and had my little side, I just started indulging into this community probably, I'd say, about 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I just started recently going to munches and little parties and all that stuff, and it's really, really fun. So for him, his whole thing is, "I want you to get out and I want you to see what I experience. I want you to experience what I experience. I want you to have fun and, be little before anything." And I'm like, "Well, that means a lot." So really, he just want me to have fun, and he's letting me explore my little side. And I think when he sees that I'm finally done exploring my little side, I think that's when he's going to give me back my daddy time. But every single day I miss being a daddy. It's part of you, and when you're 50-50 switch, if you're a true 50-50 switch, like, it's a part of you. And you love being little, but you also love, being a caregiver. It's kind of like being a bisexual person. You love females, but you also love males. So for me, I love both of them.
That's really well put. And I know firsthand how I feel like it's almost easier to get into little space by yourself than it is to get into that caregiver space when you're on your own. It can be a little bit frustrating at times. I know how that is. And so, that's how I worked out that deal with my fiance is, he wasn't willing to be little. So he was like willing to let me explore that with other people. Do you think that's something that your partner would be open for? Or are you guys very monogamous?
So we talked about that again this morning. He's like, "Well, I'm always down to, find another daddy that's willing to daddy both of us." And I'm like, "Well, that's great. Like, I'm totally down for that." But the thing is, I still have that daddy role in me. And what he pretty much was saying is like, "Okay, well, if you ever want to be daddy, you can just give me, your daddy time." And, but he predominantly really wants a daddy to take care of both of us, because with both of us enjoying being little, it's kind of hard to, you know, you know, fight off that time. So for him, he's just like, "Well, if we both want to be little, why don't we just find a daddy that's willing to take care of both of us? That way we both get our little space time. And if you want your daddy time, you can give it to me whenever you want." But I don't know. It's hard to explain. But for me, like, I don't really care to be a daddy for any other little. He's literally my little boy. I don't really care to be a daddy for anybody else. But when it comes to me being little, I'm totally open to having another daddy, or, big bro, or, even a big sis. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys are working out like the kinks to say
Yeah.
to get both of
So
your
to speak.
needs met and make sure everyone's, every side of everyone is fulfilled.
Yeah, taken care of. Yeah. Of course.
It's almost like you're in a relationship with like four different people all the
Yeah,
time.
it's so funny you say that, because I said the same thing to him today. I was like, "I feel like I'm dating two different people," and he's like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm dating two different people too." So it's very true. You get two different mentalities. You get the normal. Three. You get the normal. You get the
Right.
daddy, and you get the little side. So yeah, it's all great. I love it.
I noticed that too when I was a little, especially when we're packing for trips. It's like I'd pack for big me and then I'd pack for little me.
Yep.
And now when I visit my boy, I'm packing for mommy me.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I was just telling him, because I'm gonna go see him tomorrow, and I was like, "Oh, I just packed my bag." This is crazy, because I packed only one pair of underwear, and I have like a whole pack of diapers, one pair of underwear. I have one pair of normal socks, and then the rest of the socks are all cartoonish socks. And it's so crazy that now, like, everything I pack is predominantly little.
So it sounds like you're not 24/7 then like some other littles.
No, so for me, it's the whole 24/7 thing. I think it's all great and everything, but to be 24/7, I don't want to be burned out. Like, I love my fetish, and I fear that, like, if I do it every single day, then I'll just get burned out. I do wear it every night. I don't wear it every single day throughout the day, but every night to bed, I'll wear a onesie and I'll wear, a diaper. But I'm not acting little. I'm not in that headspace 24/7 because, once again, I've did it for a week straight, and after a week, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to at least take a couple weeks off before I do this. So yeah, I definitely can't do the 24/7 thing.
It's definitely not for everyone, and I'm with you on that. Even when I was a little, I couldn't go for more than, like, I don't know, 24 to 48 hours. And then I'm like, I gotta take a break and give myself time to breathe.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you are an adult. And for me, like, with my daddy, he's really, really, really good at getting me into that headspace, which is why I love it so much. And when I'm in that headspace, sometimes I'll literally leave my own self, or at least it feels like I'm legit a 3-year-old. And sometimes I forget about life. I forget about bills. And the first time I was totally into little space, like, it kind of scared me a little bit. I'm like, I literally just forgot that I have a job tomorrow. I forgot that I have bills to pay. And then you just get so hooked onto it. So for me, like, I need that break just to kind of remind myself, like, hey, like, you are a 31-year-old man that has a job, you have a whole department to look after, you have bills to pay. So yeah, like, I definitely need that time just to be me,
Of course. Is it hard for you to transition out of little space when you're really deep inside of it? Are there any things you've learned to make it a little bit easier?
No. So when I'm with my daddy, when he is, like, putting me in little space, like, there was just one particular time where he just was like, hey, I want you to wear a pull-up out while you're around my friends. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So, like, he had me in a little space before we went out, and then while we're out, I'm just totally wearing, and it's so hard for me to just try and be normal. Even one of his friends had made a comment. He was like, hey, before you gave my friend a hug, you had, like, this kiddish puppy dog look on your face before you hugged her. And I was like, yeah, if only you knew why I had that kiddish look, because I'm literally a kid right now. You just don't know. So yeah, it's hard sometimes, but normally as soon as I get around people, it breaks right away. And but if I'm wearing, yes, it's totally hard for me to be completely, an adult, if that makes sense.
It does. It sounds like it has a major effect on how you feel in your headspace just by wearing.
Of course, yeah. So for me, like, I can wear, but as soon as the diaper gets a little wet, sorry if that's a little vulgar or too much.
No, it's okay.
Like, you feel your age drop. I'm like, okay, I'm wet a little bit. I'm 31, now I'm 30, now I'm 30, and now I'm 29. Like, literally my age just drops. The more wet I get, the more little I get, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, like, the diaper plays a whole part. So for me, if I don't want to be little, I just won't wear.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense to why you don't want to be 24/7 either. Because you can't be at work, giving everyone puppy dog eyes and being 3.
Right. And even, like, at work, I wore to work a few times, and I wear scrubs. And this one particular time I'm wearing, and I had a onesie under my scrubs, I had a t-shirt just to cover up my onesie. And I went to the bathroom just to, go use the bathroom. And I forgot to snap my onesie. And I'm walking out of the bathroom, and I had a couple of my coworkers walking behind me, and they see the back of my onesie just draped below my, my scrub top. So they're like, Tristan, what are you wearing? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, are you wearing one of those, like, romper baby things? I'm like, oh yeah. And, like, I had to come up with something really, really fast. I started stuttering. My heart is racing fast. I'm like, holy crap. And then I'm just like, oh no, it's a new shirt. It's supposed to help me lose weight. And they're like, oh really? And I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to snap it, but I forgot to snap it. And they're like, oh, send me the link to that so I can buy one. I'm like, okay, I'll send you it later. I just never did.
Was it one with, like, a super babyish pattern or something?
No, so I try not to wear the babyish patterns to work. So I have regular, green ones and black ones. It was a regular white one that was just hanging, but they could see the snaps. I'm like, oh, I just thought you were some weirdo. And I'm like, no. It's totally, it's totally something from me working out. And I'm like, oh, okay, send me that link. I'm like, all right, I got you. Never did.
You played that off so well.
So well. I had to.
So it seems like...
trust me, it was nerve-wracking.
So it sounds like your friends in your vanilla life don't really know about this, and obviously not your coworkers either, but have you ever told any of your actual friends who aren't into ABDL about this?
Yes, my best friend knows. He knows everything. He's seen pictures I've worn around him. He's straight and he's vanilla and he's kinky, so he doesn't really care. But story time, real quick.
Okay.
So when I first started trying to indulge in the community and reaching out on social media platforms, the first platform I decided to look into was Facebook. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, well, if I like to keep this to myself, there are probably everyone else that's into this is probably they probably want to keep, their kink to themselves as well. So I joined an ABDL group on Facebook with my vanilla account. And I met this guy, his name was Zach. And I was like, he and I just started talking. We started exchanging pictures and everything was going good. So he's like, hey, are you into any other kinks? And I'm like, well, this is pretty much my main kink. I'm into smaller things, but this is my main one. And I'm like, what about you? He's like, yeah, man, I'm really into humiliation. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool, man. I'm not really into that, but that's, whatever floats your boat. And he's like, okay, well, I need you to know I'm really into humiliation. Once again, I'm like, all right, cool. So how's your day going? He's like, no, you don't get it. I'm really, really into humiliation. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about?
Right.
Now it's getting weird. And out of nowhere, I'm getting text messages, Facebook messages. My phone is blowing up, phone calls all over the place. It's my family, it's my friends, it's my coworkers. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So the first person I pick up the phone for is my mom. And I'm like, hey, mom, what's up? And she's like, what is going on? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, why is this guy sending me pictures of you dressed like this? And I'm
Oh my
like,
God.
holy crap. I'm like, mom, delete him. He's just, he's trolling. I couldn't think of anything. I'm trying to think of anything to defend myself. And I'm like, mom, just delete him. Don't pay him any mind. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. And that was the end of that conversation. So I started going through all my text messages. And the more I'm going through my text messages, the more text messages I'm getting. And I'm like, what the hell? And I start realizing this guy is going down my Facebook friend list and he's sending my pictures to every single one of my friends.
Stop it.
So I immediately blocked him once I realized that. And I'm like, holy shit. Like this guy, like he sent them to my coworkers. He sent them to my family. Literally all my family saw pictures of me in diapers with a onesie and a pacifier and how embarrassing it was. So for me, my first experience with this whole community, it was not good at all. And I was like, why did I do that? And why did I include my face? And I'll never do that again. And, so for me, it was hard. It was hard. And then a couple of my coworkers questioned what it was. And the only thing I could think of was, oh, he sent those pictures. Those are from Halloween. I decided to dress up as a baby for Halloween. And a lot of them were like, okay, oh, that makes sense. All right, whatever. One of my good coworkers, she was like, hey, question. She's like, I'm sorry if this is offensive or it makes you feel uncomfortable. She's like, are you one of those people that like to be a baby? And I'm like, no. She's like, are you sure? She's like, because my husband was into it and I want you to know that I'm not uncomfortable with it. And so her and I became best friends because I'm just like, whoa, like, so like you can relate. She's like, no, it's totally fine. She's like, I think what that guy did is completely messed up. She's like, but I want you to know that like I had a husband who was totally into the same thing and I couldn't really relate to it, but after a while I could. She's like, just let you know I'm here for you. So, it happened. And my whole thing is everything happens for a reason, right? So when my family finding out, and I had a sister who found out, and at the time I was dating a guy who was completely vanilla and wasn't into it. He also got the pictures as well. But my sister calls me and she's like, well, what does your boyfriend think of it? And I'm like, he doesn't like it. He's not cool with it. She's like, well, let me ask you, Tristan. She's like, what if one day you really need a diaper change and he won't change a diaper? And we just started laughing. And like my sister was completely cool with it. And she made little jokes about it, not like, humiliating jokes, but just like minor jokes like, what if you need a diaper change? Or what if you need a new bottle and your boyfriend will do it? You need to find a man that's going to, you need to find a man that's going to play with you in your kink. And once she said that, that's when I realized the guy that I was dating at the time was, completely not for me. And we ended up breaking up. And now I'm here with my daddy and now I'm just as open as a book. And I don't care what people think about, me. And I don't care if people see me in my little space. The only time I will really care is if, my career is affected or if my job finds out, which part of them have. And I told them it was a Halloween costume and they were cool with it. And they were like, all right, well, cool, whatever. So yeah, once again, my first experience in this community, horrible. But listening to you, and once again, I owe you so many thanks. If I ever met you, I will give you the biggest hug in the world. Because listening to your podcast, you actually are the reason why I decided to make an Instagram. You're the reason why I decided to tell my best friend. You're the reason why I just decided to not give, sorry for my language, to give a fuck about what people think. Because I remember listening to you and you were like, well, if you want people to accept you, you got to have that confidence. No one's going to really, kind of accept you if you're not really confident in what you like. And ever since then, I'm just like, you know what? I love this. I'm confident in it. And, I'm going to go about it. So once again, thank you, Lo.
Wow. I'm almost like, that's crazy. That's so
Right.
terrifying that there are people out there who have zero respect for other people's privacy, who, make themselves vulnerable like that. And I just can't believe that there are such horrible people out there who would do that. And it's like, what? Do you have nothing better to do than just go through my list of people and try to ruin any? I mean, it's just crazy. But like you said, there's always a bright side to the story if you look hard enough. And I think as time passes, you kind of realize that maybe it wasn't the worst thing for you. It kind of shoved you out of the diaper closet, if you will.
Yeah. Well, after that happened, I went, and at that time, I hadn't went through a purge for a while. But when that happened, I threw away all my diapers. I threw away whatever piece of little clothes that I had because, I didn't want anyone, I wanted no parts of the community whatsoever anymore after that. And after a while, you miss it. So I came back, and then I'm here, and I met an awesome daddy, and here I am on Instagram meeting awesome littles. So it happened, and I hated it at the time, but I'm kind of glad it happened at the time, because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be as confident as I am today. Because now I'm just like, my whole family has seen me in diapers, even though it's still embarrassing. Going back to my mom's house after that was completely embarrassing, and she brought it up at dinner, which was embarrassing.
No! What did she say?
So, she's just like, so Tristan, what was those pictures about? I'm like, Mom, I don't want to talk about it. And she's like, okay. And then my sister comes to the dinner table. Tristan, what was that about? I'm like, I don't want, and after a while, I just had to, tell him, like, this guy, I sent him pictures, and he decided to send them to you guys. Okay, well, just be careful is what my mom says. So my mom, she's cool with it. She thinks it's a little weird, but, she's more of the mindset of whatever you do in your bedroom stays in your bedroom. Don't go around showing people pictures of you doing this, pictures of you doing that. And if you do, hide your face. I'm like, okay.
Right. That seems fair. So, that seems like good advice.
It's fair. Definitely fair. Totally fair.
But now that you're out, I mean, it seems like you do post pictures of your face and you're more comfortable being, who you are, because, everyone else has found out already anyways. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my whole thing. Everyone has found out. I don't care. There are some pictures I won't post that include my face, but for the most part, I don't mind showing my face anymore because, once again, people know. And I think the more life goes on, I think the more society is slowly but surely starting to become more comfortable with the ABDLness. Because back in the day, all we had was, I hate to use this word when it comes to the community, but back in the day, we had what many considered the weird side of the ABDL side, where you watch Jerry Springer and all he has is the weirder people on there, and the people that just make the kink look like it's not what it really is. But now we have Tumblr, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, and even Facebook for that matter. People were able to see the cute side of it, the innocent side of it. When I showed my best friend, I've actually showed him a picture of you. I'm like, hey, this girl, she's a mommy. He's like, holy crap, she's a mommy? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I don't wear diapers, but holy crap, she can change my diaper any day. I'm like, I'm like, okay, well, if you need any diapers, I got plenty. I'll definitely let you wear them.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Wait, was he one of the people that got sent the picture, or was that just separate that you told him?
It was separate. He was an old coworker of mine. And once I discovered that he was slightly kinky, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna start telling him. So I told him, and he was like, all right, cool. That's fine with me. If you want me to, I'll go to a party with you one day. And I'm like, really? You'll go to a little party with me? He's like, yeah. As long as there's little girls there, not actual little girls, but girls that are little, as long as they're girl littles there, I wouldn't mind. I'm like, really? So he's totally open. to, go onto the events, and he's totally open with accepting me. And even when we're out the bar together, he'll make little jokes where he'll say, "Hey, how's the dip?" And I'm like, he knows the terminology and everything. He calls it dips. He knows everything. Hey, how's your dip doing? Oh, it's pretty good right now. So yeah, it's awesome.
I love open-minded people like that. And a couple of my girlfriends know too, and they'll poke fun at me too like that. Like one of them was asking for like sex advice, and since they're vanilla, I'm like, oh, well, maybe you could try blindfolds or, like vibrators and stuff like that. And she's like, and then I could strap a diaper on myself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you could try that too.
No, when that happens, are you kind of like embarrassed? Or you get slightly embarrassed when that happens? Or?
Of course, but I laugh too because I know they're just making fun, like they don't mean it in a mean way.
Right, of course. Oh, that's great.
So did you meet your daddy on Instagram or FetLife or at an event or something? Where did you guys meet?
I met him on diaperboys.com. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but there's a website. It's called diaperboys.com. It's actually still up, even though it's dying down a lot because of Tumblr and Instagram. But that was the first website I discovered. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get on here. And when I met him, he was sending me messages after message. And I was like, well, I don't want to accept it because he didn't show his face. I didn't show my face. And I'm like, well, what if he's somebody that I know? So I'm just not going to talk to him. But he just kept sending me messages. And finally, I just was like, all right, I'm going to respond. So I responded and I was like, hey, what's up? And he was like, how are you? And from there, we just started talking. And that night, we talked for hours the first night. And I gave him my phone number and we talked on the phone till like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, wow, I really like this guy. And at that time, Lo, I was in a relationship and I was just mainly just looking for no sex, nothing kinky or anything. I just wanted that headspace of being a daddy. And I saw him and I thought he was adorable as fuck. So, we ended up eventually meeting up a couple months after that. And the first time we hung out, it was everything. And I kind of like fell in love with him. And I remember telling him like, hey, we need to stop this because I have a boyfriend and I'm falling in love with you and I don't want to fall in love with you anymore. So I just cut him out and I just blocked him. I will never talk to him because if it scared me that I was falling in love with somebody when I had somebody else that I was already in love with. And then after a while, I started missing him. And, my boyfriend at the time and I were just not in a good place. So I just started hitting him back up. And then from that point on, we just started hanging out more. And then when my ex-boyfriend and I broke up, he and I got a little serious. My daddy and I, or my current boyfriend and I, we got a little serious. And, it went on from there. And once again, he was my little, and then now I'm his little. So, yeah, it all started with DB, is what we call it.
DB. Okay. So do you think part of you maybe joined that website because you felt, like your kink was a little bit neglected in your previous relationship? And did that make you feel a little bit lonely in your relationship?
It definitely made me feel lonely. So my ex and I were together for 8 years. And I was to the point where I was like, you know what? We've been together 8 years. Either A, it's time to get married. And, if I'm going to marry this guy, he needs to know about me. So, I pulled him aside and I was like, we need to talk. And I gave him that big, long spew of, this is who I am. And I cried a little bit. And, I finally told him like, hey, this is what I like. And he's like, well, what is it? I was like, it's called ABDL. He's like, well, what is it? What exactly is that? And I'm like, well, you're at your computer, look it up. He types in ABDL. And of course, the first things that pop up are the weird pictures. And I'm like, no. So I told him to go to Tumblr. And he went to Tumblr. I'm like, see, like, it's a cute side to it. It's all innocent. It has nothing to do with little kids. And he was okay with it. But he let me know, like, this is not what I'm into. And I will not be participating. But if you want to go out and have fun, you can do that. Just, I ask that you don't do it sexually. So I was like, all right. And that's when I started really exploring. So DB was the first website that I discovered. And I discovered it and I thought it was pretty cool. And then a couple people on the website was like, hey, there's Facebook groups. And that's when I discovered Facebook. And I never wanted to go to Instagram until I listened to your podcast. And I decided to go through Instagram. And by the way, I'm not sure if you remember, but I followed you on my vanilla account for the longest time. And I will message you. I will like your stuff. And then finally, I decided to give your podcast a like or listen. And then that's when he's like, hey, it's a lot better to, if you go to Instagram and you create a kink account. And as soon as you said that, I was like, done. I'm creating a kink account. And I've been now I'm more on my kink account, my kink Instagram, more so than my vanilla
Me
Instagram.
too. It's way more fun.
Yeah, so yeah, it's more fun, and I get more interaction. Like on my vanilla, I'll probably get like 10 likes on a picture. On my little Instagram, I'll get a couple hundred likes. I'm like, okay, so it's definitely a confident booster. So, yeah, in my past, with my ex, it was definitely lonely, and kind of glad that's over now. So, no
That
more
makes a lot of
loneliness.
sense. I just wanted to go back a little bit when you said your ex was basically like you can, interact with other people. I don't know if you meant role play, but to keep it non-sexual. And I just had a question for you. Is this kink sexual for you? And do you think it's possible to separate the sex from the role play and the nurturing side?
So yes, it is sexual for me. But the more I, gotten into this community, the more I realize like I don't need the sexual part. The whole headspace, like it's amazing. Like to me, like I manage a whole department of 32 people. So when I get off of work, I'm a little upset. I'm stressed out because either work was too much or, numbers at my job just weren't good enough, or I just felt like, my department wasn't good enough. So the whole stressful aspect, it hits me hard. So when I was able to discover Little Space, and once again, I told you that I kind of leave myself when I'm in Little Space. When I discovered that, I'm like, wow, like it's kind of therapeutic in a way. Like it literally makes me forget about all my troubles. It makes me feel like I'm a 3-year-old boy with no care in the world, with no worries in the world. So I've slowly but surely learned to separate the two. I do love that headspace, but during sex, I do love the diaper part of it too. So, but as I've gotten more into this community, it's more so the headspace, than actual sexual kink. So yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I just find it really fascinating when people of all different, types and, whether you're heterosexual or homosexual, like for instance, my boy, he's like straight as a line. But lately we've been kind of like role playing with like a daddy, like a quote unquote daddy figure. Like that's imaginary for now, but we both get excited by it. And that doesn't mean he's gay, but we both, I don't know. It's just like so interesting how it could be comforting, but also turn on and then like.
Exactly. It's the headspace thing. And Lo, you know how many straight people I've met that love, like they don't mind having a daddy. And, because it's nothing sexual, as long as the daddy isn't like weird and want to touch them inappropriately, like they only love the headspace. And that's what I love. And for me, I've always told, even though I'm gay, I always told myself I would never do or have a mommy because that's just not what I'm into. But now that I'm more transformed into like the headspace more so than a kink, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of open to a mommy. I went to an event, not an event, but a party, I say like 3 weeks ago. And there was a guy there with his mommy, and they were the cutest thing ever. Like the way they interacted with each other, the way she, stood him up and checked his diaper and, sat him on the floor to color and play with toys. Like it was so adorable. And every little there had teddy bears, and I left my teddy bear at home, and this mommy comes up and she's like, "Where's your teddy?" And I'm like, "I don't have it." And she's like, "Well, you sit right there, little one." And she went out to her car and she brought out a teddy bear. And the way she talked to me, the way like she treated me, it got me into that headspace. I was like, damn, am I mommy curious now? Like, is that even a thing? Like, what I mean? And I liked it. And I told my boyfriend, I was like, I think I'm open to a mommy. He's like, yeah, you can do the mommy thing. I'll stick with my daddies. I'm like, okay.
No, it's so funny because even though we had talked on Instagram and I knew of you and I knew you liked the show and you were friendly with me, when I clicked on your profile, your kink profile to follow you for the first time, I remember in your bio, it was like all capital letters. It was like, no mommies. So I went to go hit follow and I'm like, wait, does that mean like no mommies can follow him either? Or
No, so here's the thing with that. On Instagram, as you know, probably on Twitter as well, but there are a whole bunch of fake mommies.
oh my god.
And they're asking for money. They're not real. And so like I was getting a whole bunch of them. And I had this one mommy, hit me up and she's like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm from Philadelphia." And she's like, "Oh, really? Me too." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And she's like, "If you want to, I have a nursery." She's like, "But I charge $200 And I'm like, all right. So I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what? Let me play along. So I'm playing along. I just want to see how far she wanted to go. And she was giving me her, her Cash App information, her PayPal information, just so I can send her money and she can be, my mommy for a day or my mommy for a week. And when I saw that, I'm like, wow, there's so many mommies out there. And a lot of them, if you click on those pictures, they're still in other people's pictures. They're doing a lot of bad things. So what that meant was, which is, if you go back to my Instagram now, I corrected it. But what that meant was, like, I'm not going to, talk to no mommies, because it seems like every mommy on Instagram is fake. Until I met you and, a couple other people that I follow. And I'm like, okay, there are some real mommies out there. And it's the same situation with daddies too. There are a lot of fake daddies out there trying to, steal people's money. So, yeah.
Do you think there are more daddies out there than there are mommies?
I thought that until I go to like FetLife and, I go to even Tumblr, and I realize, like, wow, there's actually a lot of mommies out there. And it's weird because I was just telling this to my boyfriend. I was like, it seems like the ABDL community is like the gay community in a way. Like, are you familiar with the terms top and bottom?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So in the gay community, what we always joke around with, there's a huge number of bottoms, but there's like not a lot of tops. And you go into the ABDL community, there's like nothing but littles with very little, caregivers or very little mommies or daddies. And it sucks. And then so when you find one, you're like, holy crap, you're real. Like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, you cling to them a little bit more because they seem to be a rarity.
Why is that?
I have no idea. I think it's because, similar to my situation where, I was a daddy, but I discovered Little Space and now I'm hooked. I think
so Little Space is just better.
Yeah, I think a lot of them start off as daddies and they discover it and they're like, I think I'm going to stick with being little now.
Yeah, they're like, why am I doing all the work? I don't get to wear a diaper.
Right. Like, how awesome, like, of course you know how awesome it is. Like, to have someone, I don't have to wash myself. You get a daddy that washes you. You get a daddy that changes you, that, you spill food in your mouth, that they wipe your mouth off. Like, you're literally doing nothing. Like,
you're a little prince.
Yeah, and they're taking care of you. Who doesn't like being taken care of like that? So
that's so true. I love that. Well, Tristian, it was so nice talking to you. I had so much fun getting to know you, and I definitely want to keep in touch. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Lo, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll be in touch with you then.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Right, take care. Bye.